As Xia Jingxing passed away, he recalled the young figure who had set foot in a foreign land. He thought at that time, if time could come back, he would definitely not let down the turbulent 20 years of water and fish. Never forget, there will always be an echo. Returning to the age of 18, he sang. I am still the same boy as before. P.S. Bookfriend group number 928787446. P.S. This work, Winning the New Financial Era, has been completed with 2 million words, ensuring good character. Please rest assured to read it. Novel keywords. My Investment Era no pop-ups, My Investment Era complete collection download, My Investment Era latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Returning to the age of 18. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Returning to the age of 18 over the Pacific Ocean. Rainstorm, lightning and thunder. A white Boeing plane shuttles through the dark clouds. Inside the aircraft, the crew members broadcast circular reminders in both Chinese and English, saying, in extreme weather, please fasten your seatbelts and do not leave your seats. There was a little commotion among the passengers, whispering to each other and complaining about the damn weather. Many people open their sunshades and look at the world outside the plane through the porthole. Lightning burst out in the clouds, thunder roared, a scene of destruction. Suddenly, all the passengers sank under their feet, as if taking a jump plane. The plane is rapidly descending. The timid passenger started shouting and experiencing too much excitement, so it was a bit awkward. Older people still bow with their hands or draw a cross on their chest. Many people have encountered this situation for the first time, which is several levels more terrifying than typical turbulence. Everyone was very nervous, except for a young man wearing jeans and a white shirt. The young man had the trendy medium-length hair of the past, his eyes tightly closed, his hands holding his chest, and he lay on his back in the seat. He was actually sleeping and even made a slight snoring sound. The most calm person on the entire plane is none other than him. The captain checked the instrument panel and found that everything displayed normally and there was no alarm. This is flying well, why did it suddenly lose weight and descend? This is the first time he has encountered someone in his 20 years of work. After thinking about it, the reason can only be attributed to the unstable airflow. He vaguely felt something pressing on just now. But soon he smiled again, dispelling the unrealistic idea in his mind. Driving the plane steadily up. The distant clouds finally crossed the thunderstorm area through a glimmer of golden light. On the cabin side, the young man with thick hair twitched as if he had been electrocuted. The passengers around were in a state of shock, and at this moment they all noticed this scene. They looked at him with curious eyes, thinking that the young man was sleeping too soundly and unconsciously moving in his dream. The plane finally stabilized, with a blue sky and white clouds outside the porthole. Xia Jingxing opened his eyes and looked around in astonishment. Where is this? The Xia Jing market couldn't help but shout out, didn't I lose my body because of entrepreneurship and lie in the hospital for treatment? Many passengers around laughed out loud, did they sleep too soundly and haven't come back to their senses from their dreams? This is on the plane, and it will be San Francisco in 5 hours. A man in his 30s sitting next to Xia Jingxing smiled and reminded him. Xia Jingxing hasn't regained consciousness for half a day. San Francisco. What the hell? It's too messy, it needs to be smoothed out. Touching his forehead, he began to reminisce hard. Isn't he lying in a hospital bed? With an oxygen tube inserted, there are several crying ex-girlfriends next to her. He didn't even expect these people to come and see him, so he smiled. This smile ruined the situation. At that time, my brain suddenly felt a pain, and then there was darkness. I heard a lot of crying and shouting faintly in my ear. Memories come to an abrupt end here. Xia Jingxing frowned and looked around. If nothing unexpected happens, I should have hung up. Why are you on the plane again? Did you send me abroad for treatment? No, the doctor has already issued a critical illness notice. If everything goes according to the script, I reckon the Swona should be arranged by now. Xia Jingxing rubbed his head and didn't understand for a while. What's wrong with the feel? Didn't I shave all my hair? How come you have beautiful hair? Xia Jingxing, with doubts in mind, covered her head with her palm and pressed down her bangs, covering her eyes. Quickly took out his pocket and prepared to take out his Huawei P40, look in the mirror, and figure out what was going on. But what was found was not Huawei. But it's a compact phone, deep blue, or the straight type. Small in size, much smaller than mainstream smartphones. Xia Jingxing recognized this antique at a glance. It's really an antique. The Nokia 8250 was only launched in 2001. Seeing this artifact that can smash walnuts evokes many memories of Xia Jingxing. If I remember correctly, this was a reward from my parents after receiving the college admission letter, which cost me a whole $2,500. In 2002, this huge sum of money was the average person's salary for 2 to 3 months. This phone was also very trendy, with a rare blue screen at the time and a high rate of turning heads. It accompanied me through 4 years of my undergraduate career until I changed to a new wife while pursuing a master's degree. Xia Jingxing had a sudden thought: long hair, airplanes, Nokia phones. I seem to have understood a bit, but I am still unsure of my conjecture. Quickly pick up Nokia. This phone doesn't have a front-facing camera, but it still has a calendar. Looking at the time, July 20th, 2002. There is still 1 month left until the start of university. That's right. Xia Jingxing is very certain that she has returned to the age of 18, just like in the movie. At that time, on his deathbed, he remembered the young figure who had set foot in a foreign land. Stubborn too deeply. He thought at that time, if time could come back, he would not disappoint the times and become a true trendsetter. Never forget, there will always be an echo. And then I really went back to the year when I was 18. Thinking through these, he felt a little excited. In my previous life, in the closed book exam, except for the first time I hit the jackpot and joined Groupon, becoming the core entrepreneurial backbone of its top 10 job accounts, I made several bets and failed each time. The first bucket of gold, worth $5 million, was squandered. 36 years old, alone. In 2020, if you lose your job, you will still have to gnaw on your old age. When he lay in the hospital bed, the most difficult thing to let go of was not only emotional debt, but also his career. Since 2010, 3 entrepreneurial ventures have been carried out in the past decade. From group purchase to internet finance, to virtual currency, it has become more and more powerful. People around him, including family and friends, advised him to stop. But he was not willing. In 2020, he was still preparing for his 4th entrepreneurship in his life, attempting to turn things around. It wasn't until he lay down in the hospital that he truly stopped tinkering and began to reflect on his life. Brother, are you studying abroad in the United States? The person speaking was the man sitting next to Xia Jingxing, who had just reminded him that he still had 5 hours to San Francisco. Xia Jingxing turned his head and glanced at the enthusiastic elder brother. He had a big head and thick neck, and looked a bit fierce, but his speech was inversely proportional to his appearance. He was actually quite gentle. Xia Jingxing didn't judge people by their appearance. He nodded with a smile and replied, yes, studying abroad. Pangu praised his skills and then asked with a smile, which university is it? Stanford University. Pangu doesn't know how valuable this university is, but its name should not be inferior. Smiling and flattering, he said, you're amazing, my brother has a bright future. Xia Jingxing smiled but didn't answer. In 2 generations, one will no longer be complacent about a little praise. What about prestigious schools? Practice still depends on the individual. In the new century, sea turtles are becoming less and less valuable, and there is a lack of freshwater aquaculture. Many people return to their home countries and find it difficult to adapt to the environment. Big brother, are you going on a business trip to the United States? Xia Jingxing had almost accepted the fact of being reborn, and while idle on the plane, he panicked and even started chatting with this chubby guy. Pang Gu shook his head fiercely and said, "No, what's the difference? I, an uneducated person, don't drink a few ounces of foreign ink, and I can't even speak English fluently. I just heard from my relatives that it's easy to earn money in the United States and I'm preparing to come here to work." Xia Jingxing nodded, speculating that this chubby guy is mostly from Fujian province, where there is a strong business atmosphere and he is willing to be supported by relatives. This guy mostly belongs to the later rich category of first rich drives later rich. Xia Jingxing doesn't even remember whether this chubby guy was sitting next to him when he flew to San Francisco in his previous life. Time is too long to remember clearly. At that time, the whole person had a scholarly atmosphere, commonly known as a bookworm, and didn't like to talk much. When I get on the plane, I either sleep or read books about the internet. It's possible that Pang Gu also spoke up, but most of the time he just asked and answered, which was very boring and didn't interact much with people, so he didn't leave much impression. We are both passing by in a hurry. At this moment, perhaps just reborn, I haven't fully digested this matter yet, and I feel a little excited inside, so I started talking to Panga. While talking, I am also verifying whether there is any deviation from the world I understand. "Xiao Gu, do you usually watch football?" Through conversation, it was learned that this chubby guy's name is Qiu Zi, from Fujian province, and he works as a chef. Therefore, Xia Jingxing politely called him Qiu Gu. With the words, "Brother Qiu," Qiu Zi was overjoyed. His chubby face was filled with smiles, and his small eyes narrowed into a slit. He has little culture, no money, and a low social status. Xia Jingxing, a renowned international student from a prestigious university, called him brother. He immediately felt that this little brother was quite capable of handling things, unlike some bookworms or restless young people who just ate a few dishes before drifting away. Look, how could a man not watch football? After speaking, Qiu Zi sighed again and said, "Did you watch the World Cup? The Chinese football team played too poorly this time, conceding 9 goals in 3 games. My first time playing in the World Cup, I didn't insist on advancing, but at least you scored a goal. Achieve a breakthrough of 0 in the Chinese Football World Cup. Hey, we can only wait for 2006. I hope the next World Cup can have some momentum and cultivate more new players." Upon hearing this, Xia Jingxing laughed. That's right, it's still the familiar national football team and the familiar world. Then, he discussed the players with Qiu Zi. Jiang Jin, Su Yunlong, Li Weifeng, Fan Zi, Wu Qingying, Sun Jihai, Li Tai, Li Xiaopeng, Ma Mingyu, Yang Chen. These players gave a review one by one. Through these, he once again confirmed that he truly had a new life to live. I didn't know which immortal to thank, so I had to worship the Queen Mother, the Jade Emperor, Guanyin Bodhisattva, the Lord. All the great gods from both the East and the West in my heart. In this lifetime, he must live a wonderful life. By the way, as well as the body, it is necessary to strengthen exercise, stay up less late, and soak more goji berries, exercise 1 hour a day and live a healthy life for 100 years. Brother, have you graduated from university? Are you planning to stay in the United States or return to your home country? After getting familiar with the conversation, Qiu Zi took the initiative to ask about Xia Jingxing's future plans. Definitely going back to China. Xia Jingxing answered without hesitation, "Did you have a cute mind? Stay in the United States as a second-class citizen." "Oh no, second class is Lao He, and Chinese people are second only to Mexican Americans, ranking 4th. Qiu Zi was surprised. He didn't think Xia Jingxing's choice surprised him. After all, in his opinion, those who can actively return to their home country to build their hometowns are all good turtles. It's just that Xia Jingxing's resolute tone makes him a bit confused. The material life abroad is so good, and most people still struggle with earning US dollars. This little brother is not very old, but he has a sincere patriotic heart. Xiao Zi was about to speak up and praise, but before he could say anything, he was interrupted by a meticulous man in his 30s sitting next to him, dressed in a suit and with a 3 or 7-part hairstyle. The other party glanced at Xia Jingxing and smiled faintly. "Young man, don't say so much. You won't say such things when you stay in the United States for a while." Xia Jingxing gave a disgusted glance at the man dressed in an elite outfit. This kind of person, without a doubt, is a well-known figure. He thought he had gone abroad to see the world and looked down on this and that. For this kind of person, Xia Jingxing is too lazy to talk to him directly. The more you argue with him, the more enthusiastic he becomes. With this kung fu, there's nothing wrong with doing something, why bother foolishly? Directly treating public knowledge as air, Xia Jingxing continued to chat with Pang Gu. "Qiu Gu, where is your relative's restaurant? I'll come over and play with you when I have time." Xiao Zi smiled and said, "Sure, it's in San Francisco's Chinatown. Feel free to come anytime, I'll treat you to dinner, that's agreed upon." Xia Jingxing is actually just talking about it. The two of them met by chance on the plane, and even if they intersect, they don't know it's been a long time. Even whether it can be encountered again is a question. However, this did not affect their boasting, and Xia Jingxing even invited Qiu Gu to come to school to play. The two chatted happily, and time passed quickly. The plane landed smoothly at San Francisco Airport. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Admission to School. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Admission to School. Xia Jingxing carried a bag and after getting off the plane, went to the checked-in luggage area to pick up a large suitcase. Looking at the familiar black suitcase, I recalled many things. This is filled with a mother's love for her child. Especially the food from his hometown helped him get through the first semester when he first arrived in the United States and was not accustomed to local food. Parents are almost always afraid of starving and freezing their children who travel far away. As he left the airport, Qiu Zi saw his relatives coming to pick him up at a glance. The other party is a man estimated to be in his 40s, holding a small banner with the 3 big characters, Qiu Zi, written on it, which is very conspicuous. Qiu Zi said a few goodbye words to Xia Jingxing and walked straight over. Xia Jingxing waved his hand and continued walking towards the taxi area to the outside. Looking at the sunny and blue sky above my head, I feel a lot about the summer scenery. No wildfires, no black smoke blocking the sky, this is California in 2002. After casually getting into the taxi and reporting the place name to the driver, Xia Jingxing leaned back in his seat and began to close his eyes to rest. The driver is a white man, and when he saw Xia Jingxing sleeping, he lowered the dynamic music tone a bit. After lying with her eyes closed for 5 minutes, Xia Jingxing opened her eyes. At this point, the taxi has already left the airport and is driving on Highway 101. Xia Jingxing gazed out the window at the fleeting scenery, lost in contemplation for the future. "Sir, are you a student at Stanford?" The white driver saw Xia Jingxing open his eyes and asked a question. Taxi drivers from all over the world are like this, dealing with passengers as they come and go, and there are very few who do not like to chat with passengers. "Yes, I am a new student." Xia Jingxing withdrew his thoughts and casually replied. "What?" The driver had a black question mark face and seemed to have encountered something unbelievable. "I feel like you have a California accent in English. Are you a new immigrant?" Xia Jingxing smiled and shook his head. He had lived in California for 8 years in his previous life, and it was normal for him to have a local accent, as if he had also inherited this accent in his lifetime. The driver was very talkative and asked which country Xia Jingxing was from and which city he came from. "Oh, Rongcheng, I heard there are so many giant pandas in your area that they're going to fight." This time it's Xia Jingxing's turn to ask the black question mark face. "Are you going to fight with so much? Is that still called a rare animal?" Most Americans are not familiar with China and have a limited understanding of the information. Even 18 years later, the situation remains the same. Stanford is located in the city of Palo Alto in the southern part of the San Francisco Bay Area, about 60 kilometers away from San Francisco International Airport. The road was not very congested, and the taxi drove for almost an hour before successfully arriving at the gate of Stanford University. Looking at the taxi meter record, it's $82. Xia Jingxing didn't pay much attention, but when he took out his wallet and saw only 10 Franklin bills with a face value of 100 inside, he realized that he seemed to have been extravagant once. The transportation in San Francisco is very developed, and he can actually choose to take the subway and then transfer to the train, which only costs $10. Forget it, pay attention next time. He constantly reminded himself in his heart that 18 years ago, he was still a poor student. Before he passed away without self-reliance, he spent all his parents' hard-earned money. After paying the fare and getting off the car, Xia Jingxing looked up at the tall and majestic campus gate. After watching for 10 minutes, I finally woke up. He smiled confidently, picked up his backpack, pushed his suitcase, and walked towards the campus with his head held high. He was ready to welcome the new life. Stanford University has a very large area of 33 square kilometers, just like a garden town. How big is 33 square kilometers? It is about the same size as Macau's land area, equivalent to 5,000 football fields. Besides being big, the campus scenery is also very beautiful. Entering from the gate is a huge semi-elliptical shaped lawn, neatly trimmed. Xia Jingxing walked across the lawn and got on a campus bus. During the summer vacation, students either intern or travel, and there are very few students on the bus. Except for Xia Jingxing, 2 female students, one black and one white, sit in the back row chatting. Xia Jingxing glanced at them, all of whom had average looks. Generally speaking, academic elites are a rare group of people, among which those who are beautiful are even rarer, the rarest among them. But everything is absolute. Stanford still has beautiful women, with various skin colors and diverse cultures retrieving his gaze. Xia Jingxing casually chose a seat to sit down and quietly enjoyed the scenery constantly passing behind him outside the window. Tall palm trees are planted on both sides of the road, forming a palm avenue with interlaced lawns and shaded green trees. Another major feature of the campus is its stable rectangular stone buildings. The earth-yellow stone walls surround the red-roofed building, connected by arches and semi-circular arches. These buildings are highly unified in color and appearance, but they each have their own unique structures and Roman architectural elements. The iconic red tile roof and the bright blue sky of California complement each other, creating a picturesque landscape of Stanford campus. On the bus, Xia Jingxing also saw students riding bicycles on both sides of the road, passing by in small groups, each with a confident smile on their face. It can be seen that their campus life is very enjoyable. These students are mostly wearing red T-shirts with Stanford logo printed on them, plus a pair of jeans, simple yet full of vitality. California is always sunny except for winter, with temperatures between 15.24 degrees Celsius, making it very livable. Xia Jingxing went to the campus office and found a white teacher. He took out various documents including ID card, passport, visa, I-20 and I-94 forms, admission letter, medical examination form, etc., and began to apply for new student registration. After filling out various forms and completing registration, Xia Jingxing was called to a small conference room. A black staff member began to explain to him the various rules and regulations of the school, as well as the most important insurance. To study abroad in the United States, each student needs to purchase their own insurance, and generally schools have designated insurance companies. The cost of seeking medical treatment in the United States is astonishing, and having this insurance can save a lot of expenses. Without insurance, calling an ambulance would cost thousands or even thousands of dollars, which international students from poor families simply cannot afford. The study abroad medical insurance launched by Stanford is priced at $400 per semester, and the coverage does not include dentistry and ophthalmology, which are advanced programs. Medical insurance only covers more than 10 major projects, including outpatient services, hospitalization, first aid, and body transportation. These guarantees are basically sufficient, taking into account various situations that may occur during the study period of international students. Whether it's a minor illness or a serious illness, hospitalization, rehabilitation treatment, or even death, everything is arranged clearly and effectively. It is worth mentioning that Xia Jingxing has applied for a scholarship to Stanford. Not all tuition fees, living expenses, and even travel expenses are included in the full price. Just half the price. Free of tuition for 4 years, but personal miscellaneous expenses such as meals, accommodation, and textbooks during the school period need to be borne by oneself. Compared to the tuition fee of over $20,000 per year, these expenses are considered small, and the total cost per year is usually just over $10,000. Even after waiving tuition fees, studying abroad for 4 years still requires spending $50,000 to $60,000. This amount was not a small sum of money in 2002. Originally, Xia Jingxing was not very enthusiastic about studying abroad, and taking TOEFL and SAT exams was arranged by his mother. From the bottom of his heart, he prefers to attend Tsinghua University. Studying in China can alleviate some financial pressure on parents. His parents work in good companies, but their income is average, so it's not very easy for him to study abroad. Fortunately, he won half the prize, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to afford this school. In addition, he actually received an offer from neighboring Berkeley, California. This university has been in love and hate with Stanford for many years. It is a public university, with tuition fees more than half cheaper than private Stanford, but his scholarship was not applied for. So we can only give up, family conditions do not allow it. American university tuition fees are also notoriously expensive, increasing year by year. Over a decade later, Stanford's tuition fees will be around $50,000 to $60,000 per year. Native Americans in the United States have protested various ways, saying that they cannot afford to attend university, but it is useless. What should be raised is still rising. Even Aoguan Maritime University applied for a campus loan and it took 21 years to repay the loan. After 4 years, they finally became the leader. So, reading is still a way to change one's destiny. Assuming that Aoguanhai has not attended college, it is uncertain which nightclub he will be wearing a big gold chain, setting a golden tooth, and playing rap music at this time. Since then, the world has lost a great leader and added a black rapper named AY, or Bei, or Mei. Xia Jingxing roast in his heart that compared with those private universities abroad, it is still a good 985/211 in China, and the tuition will not rise for years. In fact, behind this is the continuous financial allocation from the government to these universities every year. It is absolutely impossible to rely solely on the meager tuition fees to support the development of universities. It can be seen from this that the socialist road is still better. After receiving the admission notice 3 months ago, Xia Jingxing applied online for the meal plan and dormitory, accompanied by her parents. Now, all she needs to do is pay. Xia Jingxing has no objection and directly took out a Visa card to swipe the card. It is worth mentioning that in the first year of Stanford University, undergraduate students were required to reside on campus. This is also a fear that students who have just arrived in the United States may not be familiar with the environment and may not be safe to live outside of school. In addition, over 90% of undergraduate students at Stanford live on campus, and the various supporting facilities are quite good. However, it is not convenient to live outside the campus, unless for special reasons. After tinkering for a long time, Xia Jingxing finally completed all the procedures. At the same time, I also paid all the insurance, dormitory, and meal expenses for the first semester, totaling over $3,000. Stanford has 3 semesters per year, and these fees are paid once a semester. Xia Jingxing received a set of dormitory keys and also a guidebook for new student enrollment. He walked towards the dormitory while flipping through a book. After walking for about 10 minutes, Xia Jingxing arrived at a row of buildings with red-tiled roofs that were different from the conventional ones on campus. Looking at these 7 familiar 3-story buildings, Xia Jingxing has many memories. He spent all 4 years of his undergraduate studies here in his previous life. Stanford University has a total of 10 residential communities for undergraduate students, each consisting of 7 or 8 2-story or 3-story buildings, with 80.100 students residing in each building. The total number of undergraduate students in the school is only 6 to 7,000, and the number of graduate students is also similar. Compared with domestic universities, the number of students is indeed too small. The dormitory floors and number of buildings are randomly assigned, and Xia Jingxing is assigned the first floor of the middle building. He pushed his luggage into the building and quickly found his own dormitory based on his memory. Taking out the key, just as he was about to open the door, a woman's head suddenly protruded from the opposite room. Upon hearing the commotion, Xia Jingxing turned around and saw a woman with wine-red hair scrutinizing her. The woman has deep eye sockets, which are blue in color. She is wearing pajamas, with messy hair, and looks like she has just woken up. "Hello, I am Christina, a second-year economics student." The other party opened the door and waved to Xia Jingxing, warmly greeting him. Xia Jingxing was not surprised at all. Stanford University is in this tone, allowing and supporting mixed use of male and female floors. And some universities in the United States started doing this as early as the 1970s. In China, it will take 10 years for this kind of mixing to gradually become popular, which has been criticized by various public opinions, except for students who are overjoyed. The United States is still relatively open in this regard, and George Washington University will announce in 12 years that it allows male and female students to live in the same dormitory. After this news was announced, most students expressed support and understanding. "Hello." Xia Jingxing smiled politely at the girl and had a vague impression of her, but she couldn't remember clearly. He introduced himself and said, "I am a first-year computer science student from China. You can call me Darren." Pointing to the girl's pink pajamas again, he praised, "The pajamas are very beautiful, and you are also very beautiful." No girl is immune to praise. Christina is no exception. She smiled slightly and said, "Thank you. Wishing you a happy life at Stanford and the potential to become a successful person like your name." After chatting for a while, Xia Jingxing pushed open the dormitory door and entered the room. Stepping on the soft carpet, Xia Jingxing casually glanced at the room. There are 3 elevated beds, as well as basic furniture and facilities such as desks, chairs, bookcases, and wardrobes, all arranged neatly. He opened the window and let in the wind. "It's been 2 months since we last lived, and the air doesn't smell very good." Then he poured another basin of water, wiped his own bed, tables and chairs, and wardrobe, and started making the bed. Each dormitory in Stanford has access to high-speed internet, telephone lines, cable TV, etc., but bedding and daily necessities have to be provided by ourselves. He opened the suitcase and took out a brand new bedding from China. The sheets were embroidered with dense peonies, and the quilt was made of white silk. In future generations, this behavior will definitely be ridiculed as a local dog. Studying abroad and bringing your own quilt will not only occupy the weight limit of the shipment, but also save a lot of money. But Xia Jingxing can understand his parents very well. After all, the family is not wealthy, and it is already difficult for him to study abroad. If he can save, he can save. American beds have many specifications, which are very different from those in China. Xia Jingxing's mother stuffed the set of peony bed sheets in his suitcase for him. He struggled to fit the bed against the wall for half a day, so he had to fold it into 2 layers, barely solving the problem. Then he began to empty the suitcase. Various documents such as ID card, passport, bank card, etc. Clothing, shoes, mobile phone chargers, laptops, USB drives, gastric motility, berberine, gonmao granule, amoxicillin, Yunnan Baiyao spray, golden throat tablet, band-aid Leoganma, hot pot seasoning, fried dough twists. Xia Jingxing looked at her suitcase, which was like a Doraemon pocket, and felt warm in her heart. Or ask a friend, sausages, bacon, rabbit head and other pickled food cannot enter the United States. It is estimated that his mother will also fill a suitcase for him. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Treasure Company. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Treasure Company. Feeling a bit hungry, Xia Jingxing went directly to the dormitory restaurant to buy a meal voucher and ordered a sandwich and a glass of orange juice. This is lunch. Each building in Stanford has its own small restaurant, lounge, and public activity area, providing 3 meals a day and open 7 days a week, so there is no need to walk far to a unified cafeteria like domestic universities. After a simple lunch, Xia Jingxing took the campus shuttle bus to the nearby shopping center to start a big shopping trip. I bought some daily necessities and went to get a new phone card. He thought for a moment, then went to the nearby Bank of America, applied for a bank card, and transferred all the funds in the Visa card, totaling over $11,000. He originally came to study with a total of $16,000, paid more than $3,000 for food, accommodation, insurance, and bought some daily necessities, leaving only over $11,000 on his card and over $900 in cash. The whole body adds up to a total of $12,000. After dinner, Xia Jingxing returned to the dormitory and lay in bed, unable to sleep. It's not that he's not accustomed to the environment, but that he's a bit confused and doesn't know what to plan for next. Is it to read systematically, or to use some foresight for the future to make money and make big money? Money must still be earned. In this society, without money, one's waist is not straight. Besides making money, he is still struggling with whether to start a business again. I failed to start a business 3 times in my previous life, and when I was about to prepare for my 4th one, I fell ill and couldn't get up. I've been tinkering around for half my life and haven't come up with anything. Entrepreneurship definitely needs to be done. Working is impossible in this lifetime. Xia Jingxing opened her eyes wide and stared straight at the ceiling. If he doesn't succeed once in his life, it's hard for him to calm down. In his previous entrepreneurship, he also reviewed where he fell. Group buying entered too late, causing the financing rhythm to not keep up and crashing in the battle of thousands of groups. P2P entered the wrong industry and was too cautious, so it did not develop in scale and failed to land. Virtual currency, on the other hand, is purely a form of speculation. Once a pig teammate is found, the enemy of the pig teammate, a self-media influencer, turns him into a naked pig, and the stubborn leak flies away. In all walks of life, he is most familiar with the internet, followed by finance. If you want to start a business, you probably can only choose these 2 fields. This is called not earning money outside of the cognitive field. Otherwise, the money earned by luck will be lost again by strength. Alas. Today is July 20th, 2002, Xia Jingxing recited in her heart. This time is a bit awkward. The Nasdaq index reached its peak of 5,000 points 2 years ago, and then plummeted 1,000 miles. The speculative foam of the internet has not slowed down the market until now. The reincarnation of the Great Road is the same principle as P2P and virtual currency in the future. In the game of drumming and passing flowers, no one feels like they are the takers. There will always be a fool to take over for me. It is 2004, the first year of the Web 2.0 era, that the internet industry has come out of the darkness and ushered in a bright future. If you want to do something yourself, you need to start accumulating more grain now. So what should we do now? After much thought, Xia Jingxing felt that he couldn't be too ambitious. He should first look for a business and earn his first bucket of gold. With the US dollar in hand, there is more room for choice. As for the longer term, it is purely a groundless concern. Money making, fast, safe, suitable for oneself, with no barriers to entry. Xia Jingxing quickly filtered out various industries and projects in her mind with these keywords. Working in the United States is too slow, and many legitimate companies do not hire him. International students can only work on campus, while those outside the campus are called black workers. American jobs are reserved for their taxpayers. International students often go to Chinese restaurants to wash dishes outside of school, and their rights are not guaranteed. The boss is kind-hearted and cannot deduct your salary. You will be paid in full. A slightly disgusting boss, it's normal to delay or discount wages. Anyway, you international students themselves work as black laborers and often break their teeth and swallow them in their stomachs. Setting up a street stall. Street stall economy. Firstly, the United States is vast and sparsely populated. If it weren't for living in the city center, people on the streets would be very rare. The United States is a city where cars are used, and people basically rely on driving for transportation. There are few pedestrians on the road, so street vendors are rarely seen by people. The customer flow is low, and you can't make money. Secondly, setting up street vendors in the United States also requires a booth license, and in some places, more than one is required. And the management is very strict. If you set up a street stall in a certain place without permission, it may not be the urban management who is in charge of you, it may be the police. There are also many Americans who love to report to the police and are very meddlesome. No matter what big or small matters, they are often reported before you know it. Police cars are already by your side, and they come at a speed far beyond your imagination, often just a few at a time. It's okay to be handcuffed honestly. If you're not careful, you'll encounter a racist and get killed on your knees without anyone going to the streets to avenge you. When moving, selling second-hand goods on the lawn in one's own yard is not a big deal, and it's a private territory that only American residents love to mess with, and the police can't even manage it. Xia Jingxing killed one unreliable or unsuitable project after another. In his mind, it is best not to spend too much time on the project to avoid affecting his studies. Although the turtle will not be valuable in the future, he is afraid of dropping out of school or being expelled from school. His mother can't accept the news. As a person of two generations, he no longer wants his mother to worry about him. Besides, he hasn't achieved anything in his career yet, and he doesn't even have any signs of success. Dropping out of school now is purely foolish. Dispelling his thoughts, Xia Jingxing continued to ponder. Oh, I thought of it. He suddenly jumped up from the bed, glanced at the computer on the table, and had to start from it. He quickly woke up, put on his slippers, sat down at the desk, and turned on the computer. He can access domestic Chinese websites abroad. After opening his computer, he first browsed the financial and economic sections of Sina and Sohu, and finally entered NetEase. His gaze was fixed on a news article topped by NetEase Finance. On April 11, Mr. Duan Yongping, chairman of Bobugeo Group, spent $2 million in the public market to purchase 1.52 million shares of NetEase stock, accounting for 5.05% of NetEase's total share capital. Mr. Duan Yongping said that he is firmly optimistic about NetEase's future, and time will prove everything. Looking at this news that has been outdated for several months, Xia Jingxing's lips curved upwards. The internet foam made a large number of internet companies miserable, and NetEase was also one of the victims. NetEase's stock price has been falling from $15.50 when it went public, dropping to a minimum of 48 cents, a drop of 97%. The market value also dropped from $470 million at the time of listing to less than $20 million at the lowest point, which is unbearable. Of course, the exaggerated decline is also related to NetEase being found to be suspected of accounting fraud, resulting in more than half of its revenue disappearing. Last September, NetEase also suspended trading once, with a suspension price of 64 cents. If the stock price of a Nasdaq-listed company is less than $1 per share, and the warned company fails to take corresponding measures to save itself and change its stock price within 90 days of the warning, it will be announced to stop trading. This is commonly known as delisting. NetEase was once hovering on the brink of delisting. At that time, Ding Sancher went to countless places, met countless investors and business leaders, and wanted to sell the company, but no one dared to take over. Everyone thinks that NetEase is doomed this time, who dares to take the lead? Until the man with the alias Duan Feet appeared. While recalling, Xia Jingxing opened the Nasdaq website and began checking NetEase's financial information. Duan Feet's $2 million is really a timely reign, undoubtedly giving NetEase's stock price a shot in the arm. The current stock price has risen to $1.42. $2 million may not sound like much in later generations, but at this time, it can be considered a huge sum of money. There are only so many circulating stocks on NetEase, and this large purchase order has directly pushed NetEase's stock price above $1, breaking away from the brink of delisting. Xia Jingxing is very good at math. After mental calculation, the average holding price for $2 million and 1.52 million shares is less than $1.32. Later, Duan Yongping continued to increase his holdings of NetEase stocks to 2.05 million shares, accounting for 6.8% of NetEase's total share capital. I can't remember this time very clearly, I'm not sure if it's this year or next year. In addition, he still remembers that when the stock price of NetEase exceeded $40, Duan Yongping sold a portion of the stock and first regained the capital to stabilize a group. As for profitability, it is not as exaggerated as self-media claims that holding for more than a decade, not selling a single stock, and ultimately making a profit of thousands of times. Duan Yongping held most of NetEase's shares for 8 to 9 years, and only gradually sold them after 2010, making a profit of tens or hundreds of times. NetEase later split its shares once, and one share became 4. At this moment, buying a share for $1.42 is equivalent to a holding cost of $0.355 per share. When NetEase's stock price breaks below $355 one day, it will really be a profit of over 1,000 times. Thinking too far, thinking too far. Xia Jingxing quickly woke up from his dream. NetEase's stock price is over $300, and it will be at least a decade later. Take a look at your eyes first. NetEase's stock price is $1.42, with a total share capital of 30 million shares and a market value of approximately $43 million. The net assets per share are over $2, which is much higher than the stock price. In addition, there is a cash reserve of over $50 million, net assets of $67 million, and liabilities of $14 million. It seems that the stock price is suspected of being undervalued. But mainly because NetEase is not making money, the market view is still quite pessimistic, especially since the launch of Journey to the West 1 did not achieve ideal results. However, these are the final darkness before dawn. Xia Jingxing glanced at NetEase's news and said that Journey to the West 2 will be officially launched next month, which is August. There is also telecommunications SP value. Added service, which is also a life. Saving straw for the 3 major portals and penguins. At present, both of these businesses are making efforts and have not yet shown their power. Xia Jingxing took a look and realized that NetEase will not release its second quarter financial report until September, so the stock price will definitely not be like it is now. Turning off the computer, Xia Jingxing lay back in bed and began to consider the matter of money. I can't bear to see such a treasure company swaying and seducing him in front of him. This taste. Feeling uncomfortable. My heart is like a knife cutting. He quickly dispelled his distractions again. Who is Duan Feet? People who became rich in the 1990s cannot be compared. I'll just follow behind and have a sip of soup. What he is considering now is to raise as much money as possible in the short term. Then, all in. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Dad Level Strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Dad Level Strength. San Francisco is West 8th District Time, and Beijing is East 8th District Time. During summer time, San Francisco is 16 hours later than the capital city, winter time is 15 hours later. At this time, it is July, so daylight saving time is being implemented. In the morning, Xia Jingxing changed into sportswear and went to the playground for a run. Although it's still a holiday, you can still see many figures exercising on the playground. In addition to having extremely high academic achievements, Stanford's sports strength is also renowned in the United States and even the world. Throughout history, Stanford has produced a total of 335 athletes who have participated in the Olympics and have won 243 Olympic medals. Taking the 2008 Beijing Olympics as an example, a total of 48 current and previous athletes trained by Stanford University represented their 8 countries in the Olympics. This number exceeds the number of athletes sent by any other university in the United States. These athletes won a total of 25 medals at the Beijing Olympics, 3 of which were won by student athletes who were still in school that year. So, Stanford University is also known as a world-class wonder of combining sports and education, with a strong campus sports and exercise atmosphere. Stepping on the plastic track, Xia Jingxing controlled the rhythm and started running slowly. From time to time, tall and long old black ran past him, turning him into a scum in seconds. He doesn't care at all and doesn't have the same opinion as these people. In my previous life, my body was too weak and I didn't pay much attention to physical exercise. I passed away at the age of 36, which is sad and lamentable. So in this lifetime, he must double his love for his body. When he ran a few laps, he was already sweating profusely, blushing and panting uncontrollably. This is also a common problem among many Chinese academic elites at this time, who spend their time reading and do not attach much importance to sports. Fortunately, he still plays basketball and cycles back and forth to school on a regular basis. His physical condition is decent, otherwise he would be exhausted from running 1 or 2 kilometers. So, he controlled his breathing rhythm and ran more than 10 laps. After running about 10 kilometers, he felt like his legs were filled with lead and a bit heavy. So he stopped running, panting heavily, and began walking back to the dormitory. That's all for today's exercise. Actually, he can still run a few more laps, but he feels it's unnecessary. The effectiveness of physical exercise lies in long-term persistence, rather than relying on short-term breakthroughs. Besides, running too much, I'm afraid there may be damage to the meniscus. Returning to the dormitory, after taking a shower and having breakfast, he took out his phone and dialed his father, who was thousands of miles away. "Dad, haven't you finished work yet?" Xia Yuan was reading a newspaper and fishing in the office when he suddenly received a strange phone number, which looked like a long string of area codes. After connecting, he heard the phone call and called "Dad," which made him realize that it was his son who called back from the United States. "I thought my son would call back yesterday, but the couple stayed up for most of the night, guarding the phone by the bedside until dawn. The main concern is still that the child is only 18 years old and it is their first time going abroad. They originally wanted to accompany their child to school, but were rejected by their son, who said they wanted to learn to grow independently. It's still early, it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Rongcheng." After receiving his son's phone call, Xia Yuan finally let go of his hanging heart, glanced at the time on his watch, and casually replied. "Is it morning in the United States? Have all the admission procedures been completed? Is there any problem?" Xia Yuan's mouth was like a machine gun, with several issues arising from his sudden outburst. Although there are many questions, the tone is very kind and full of love. Xia Jingxing smiled and answered each question one by one. "Is this the number you registered in the United States? I'll go to the business hall to make an international call later." Xia Jingxing said a few good words on the phone. He wanted to discuss something with his father, but now he hesitated a bit. Seeing his son not speaking, Xia Yuan asked, "Why are you not speaking? Is there something wrong?" Xia Jingxing gritted his teeth and pointed it out clearly, "Dad, I want to do something and need some funds." Xia Yuan frowned. If it weren't for the familiar voice, He would have suspected that his son was on the phone. What do we need to do? How much does it cost? Without hastily reaching a conclusion, Xia Yuan felt that it was not too late to ask the question clearly and make further comments. Stanford University has a strong entrepreneurial atmosphere, isn't it? I want to create a website. Creating a website. Xia Yuan pondered that he is also an intellectual, and he is no stranger to the internet and computers. He usually surfs the internet, knowing that this is the future trend. Just building a website, the investment cost is quite high. He expressed his personal opinion. What type of website do you want to create? You have only just arrived in the United States and are unfamiliar with the place. Why are you in such a hurry? My opinion is to wait a little longer. For example, it's not too late to decide to start a website when you're in your sophomore or junior year. The university courses are still very heavy, and your personal energy is also a problem. Xia Yuan did not dampen Xia Jingxing's enthusiasm, but tactfully helped his son analyze it, hoping that he would delay his entrepreneurial time. Xia Jingxing smiled bitterly. He knew it would be like this. This is not a decade after entrepreneurship became popular, and the vast majority of families will not support their children's entrepreneurship during their school years, because parents are afraid of delaying more important academic pursuits. As for why didn't he mention stock trading? The reason is very simple. A newly graduated high school student has become a stock god in the blink of an eye, and he still wants to use most of his family's savings to bargain with NetEase, vowing to earn 1,000 times. Parents may find it more absurd and unreliable. It's very difficult to get money from home. Xia Jingxing will not threaten his parents by saying nonsense like, if I don't receive funding for entrepreneurship, I will drop out of school. Money is a technical skill. Dad, don't rush to draw a conclusion yet. Xia Jingxing said calmly, listen to me analyze with you. Xia Yuan had a strange expression on his face, both pleased and amused. I am pleased that the child has grown up and speaks according to adult thinking. It's funny to think that children haven't really grown up and that they won't be convinced. Anyway, listen and find a good excuse to refuse later. We need to convince our son to dispel his thoughts without damaging his self-esteem and confidence. From an inner monologue of a good father. I want to create a website for international students. It's a bit interesting. Xia Yuan thought his son was just about to do portal.commerce, instant messaging. These high-end websites. The website for international students sounds quite good, practical, and suitable for the child's identity. It may even make some sense. However, the child is sorry, and the father is going to start nitpicking. International student websites have a broad concept and are in the form of forums where everyone can post and discuss, or in the form of portal news, publish some foreign news on it. Upon hearing this, Xia Jingxing smiled. Dad, although you claim to be at the forefront of the middle-aged man trend, you know more about the internet and high-tech industries than most of your peers. However, your understanding of the internet it's not a dad-level rank. P.S. Wishing all new and old book friends, as well as family, a happy double festival and a joyful family. Let me talk about the new book, My Investment Era. It has already been signed in and is still going through the process. Let's start recommending, investing, and collecting it. I didn't send the chapter yesterday because I sent the third chapter, which exceeded 10,000 words. There were some issues with the review, so the editor helped to block it. It was only released today, so I was able to continue publishing chapter 4. So, there was a reason why there was no update yesterday. In fact, the new book was released on September 29th and was only displayed yesterday on the 30th. For future updates, it will still be 4K words per day. The reason is that everyone understands that new books require various data, and they dare not explode like gods. After they are released, they will explode and be updated. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Always give me everything and give me the best. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Always give me everything and give me the best. Dad, what you said is not my ideal study abroad website. Xia Jingxing casually pretended to be forced, then quickly activated the brainwashing mode and began boasting to her father. Take me for example, stay in school and take many detours. Most people understand studying abroad either through intermediaries or through hearsay from family and friends. A lot of information has been transferred a few times, adding fuel and vinegar, and it is not the most authentic appearance at all. The website I want to create is to showcase the most authentic learning and life experiences for international students studying abroad. Parents and students who have a need to study abroad can also ask questions and consult on the website, and have their questions answered by certified, real international students on the website. For parents and students who want to study abroad, not only can they receive the most objective response, but they can also browse our website's International Student Life display page, including text, pictures, and even videos in the future. How about it, do you think it's very interesting? Xia Yuan smiled bitterly, feeling that he still underestimated his son. However, he would not be easily convinced and began asking, how do you persuade these international students to register on your website, showcase their lives, and answer questions? Parents and students who want to study abroad don't have to mention it. They are profit seekers and have the motivation to register and browse your website. What about international students? Why do they do this? What benefits do they have? These small questions cannot be difficult for Xia Jingxing. He smiled slightly and said, firstly, international students can showcase their lives and become celebrities on websites, and even in the international student community. Name is the greatest benefit. Secondly, they can also make friends with international students through the website. Finally, when the future develops well, I will pay some international students according to their work, paid. Xia Yuan frowned and said, how does your website generate revenue? Xia Jingxing was half lying on a chair in the dormitory, laughing and saying, advertisements, we can advertise on our website. Think about it, what is the most suitable advertisement for our website? What international students need? Study abroad agencies, TOEFL and IELTS training courses. Xia Yuan quickly changed his mind and immediately came up with the answer. Bingo! Xia Jingxing took off his shoes, placed his legs on the desk, adjusted to a comfortable position, and then said, in the future, when website traffic increases or international students graduate, various advertising businesses such as headhunting services, overseas real estate, investment immigration, etc. can also be derived. You're thinking too far now. Xia Yuan admits that what his son said is somewhat feasible, but it will take a large website, a long time, and having their own brand to make it work. I didn't say now, I just said there is a possibility. Xia Jingxing continued to boast, this is not just a website, the goal is to build a bridge between China and the world, including talent mobility, project cooperation, and many other aspects. On the other end of the phone, there was a silence. After a while, a voice came. Jingxing, you tell me the truth. Did you think about this website project yourself or saw it somewhere? Xia Jingxing was stunned and suddenly showed too much strength, which fooled his father too much. No, absolutely not plagiarizing anyone, it's all my own thoughts. Xia Jingxing spoke confidently. For example, on my first day in the United States, I realized that America is not what news, books, or film resources tell us. Many Chinese people do not understand the United States, and there are too few windows for information. Now is the Internet era, which is also a new media channel to understand the United States. Xia Yuan thought for a moment and realized that his child has been honest since childhood, so he probably wouldn't lie. So if it's all his own thoughts, why hasn't he been exposed before? Is it because previous studies stifled many instincts? So, how much does it cost to build this website? Xia Jingxing's mouth was about to open, trying to hold back until she didn't laugh. The expression on his face was like a fox successfully stealing a chick. Stay calm. The revolution has not yet succeeded, and comrades still need to work hard. We have to continue to persevere. Dad, actually it won't cost much money. Xia Jingxing counted his fingers and said, first, personnel. I can program myself, so I don't need to hire anyone else. When it develops, Stanford has a large number of social workers who can deceive a large group without salary. What is it? Shi Chu. You tricked the chef into being your employee. Xia Jingxing gave himself a round of applause. Next time, he must have a long memory, avoid being unconventional, and integrate into this era. It's what the students mean, work hard and be willing to complain, just like the livestock on the farmland. Don't say that, your classmates heard you. What do they think? Xia Yuan pretended to be angry and sighed before deciding to teach his son a trick. We don't have money, but we can talk about ideals. Xia Jingxing. Having been taught, Dad is really still Dad. In addition to personnel, I will continue to mention the second point of office space. Dormitories can serve as offices in the early stages. After scaling up, the school will also have free venues and even financial support. The third point is that I have my own computer, and my classmates can also deceive me by bringing a computer with them. The fourth point is the server, which will cost some money. Xia Yuan nodded incessantly on the phone, acknowledging his son's rational use of resources. How do you do marketing and promotion? Xia Jingxing was about to blurt out mouth marketing and user fission, but when the words reached her mouth, she swallowed them. Let's focus on the North American market first. It requires some transportation and social expenses. I need to visit Chinese student organizations in various cities, get to know them well, and use their power to attract the first batch of users. Oh. Xia Yuan works in a public company and understands the importance of interpersonal relationships, which he agrees with in his heart. Okay, how much do you think it will cost in total? Xia Jingxing's eyes twitched. The amount should not be too large, too much is not enough, and the actual family capacity should be considered. Too much, maybe there won't be a single point in the end. About $50,000. In order to increase its weight, Xia Jingxing specifically added, once you receive financing from the school or venture capital institution, you basically don't need to invest money in it yourself. This money is not a small amount, but Xia Yuan did not appear particularly shocked. After all, it was in the United States, and prices were different. Using $50,000 in the United States is similar to using 50,000 Chinese yuan domestically. I need to discuss this with your mother. Xia Yuan added, this money was originally intended for you to study abroad, but if you lose. If I lose money, I will work on my own to support myself and no longer ask for living expenses from you. Xia Jingxing didn't guarantee success, as it would scare his father. It's better not to say so. Working. Xia Yuan's face was calm. Assuming he was really at a loss, it would be a good thing to have his son work to hone his willpower and endure some hardships. After all, their generation is already much happier, and a few of the international students in the past decade or so have not washed their dishes. Out of caution, Xia Yuan asked a few probing questions again. His son's response left him unable to find any flaws. And between words, there is a hint of joy, excitement, confidence. Hanging up the phone, Xia Yuan covered his forehead and began planning how to persuade his wife to agree and support his son's entrepreneurial project. He is actually not optimistic about his son's successful entrepreneurship. The main person is too young and lack of experience is a serious problem. Additionally, in the process of doing this, if the son is smart enough, he can make many connections, which may come in handy in the future. Of course, the main reason is that he wants to give his child more possibilities for the future. As parents, if they have the ability to give their children the best, they will definitely not choose the next best. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 50% discount. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 50% discount. Wife, my son said he wants to build a website and asks us to provide some financial assistance. Upon returning home, Xia Yuan informed Zhang Yuqiong of this significant news. What kind of assistance? How much does it cost? Zhang Yuqiong, wearing an apron, was stir-frying vegetables. Upon hearing this, she immediately stopped her hand movements. Xia Yuanzheng, leaning against the kitchen door, felt a bit uneasy when he saw this. Taking a deep puff of smoke and feeling overwhelmed, he began to demonstrate his true skills. I didn't directly answer how much money it would cost, mainly because I was afraid of scaring my wife. Instead, the focus of the introduction was on the prospects of my son's entrepreneurial project. The future prospects of the website depicted by Xia Jingxing were magnified countless times in his father's mouth, shining brightly, and the Nasdaq seemed within reach. He knew that his wife was a very stubborn and conservative person, and to persuade him, he had to be wise. Zhang Yuqiong listened quietly, not speaking, her gaze fixed on the pot, looking indifferent. In fact, waves had already stirred up in her heart. Has my own son finally enlightened? Do you still know about entrepreneurship? It's like a different person. As for the bright future depicted by his husband, it was directly filtered out. Both husband and wife are old now, but they still don't understand each other. Simply discount the content of the conversation, and it's almost close to the truth. After the dishes were served, Zhang Yuqiong finally took the initiative to ask, is that website really reliable? It's quite reliable. Xia Yuan said seriously, have you heard of Sina, Sohu, and NetEase? They are all internet companies with a market value of several $100 million and only 3 or 5 years old. Zhang Yuqiong couldn't have been intimidated by such a small trick. She put on a stern expression and showed the dignity of a high school academic affairs director, don't add oil and vinegar to me. You are not unfamiliar with our situation. It's already very difficult to support my son to study abroad, how can there be any extra money to support him in starting a business? Students should study diligently, and what can they come up with? Xia Yuan's tone was one of stagnation, leading to a failure in intelligence. We can only switch to the second move. Our son is good at everything, but don't you think he's too introverted? He only knows how to read, but he doesn't understand the world. He will suffer a big loss in the future when he enters society. Zhang Yuqiong pondered, as if it was indeed like this. It's not a big deal to be ignorant of human relationships and worldly wisdom, just focus on academic work with peace of mind. In Zhang Yuqiong's vision, this life path also looks very good. Xia Yuan shook his head and chuckled, focus on academic pursuits. You're thinking too much. Let's talk about how many intrigues and deceitful things have happened between our two units. Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes. You have to believe that there is no absolute pure land in the world. Zhang Yuqiong pondered for a while, but couldn't refute it. So what you mean is to give him money to try and exercise? Xia Yuan shook his head again and said, this is just one aspect. On the other hand, Zhang Yuqiong remained silent because her husband had already made it clear enough to fight for more possibilities in the child's life. How much does that cost? $50,000. Xia Yuan noticed his wife's expression and comforted her, don't get excited yet. The prices in the United States are different from ours, and the national conditions are also different. Money is essential for opening up. Zhang Yuqiong looked heartbroken and said, do we have to have that much money? In case we fail. It's a failure, don't we still have a house? Selling it should be enough to cover our son's living expenses for a few years, Xia Yuan said nonchalantly. That house is reserved for my son's wedding. Zhang Yuqiong immediately exploded with excitement on her face. Whether it's supporting entrepreneurship or selling a house, it's all for the sake of children. What's the difference? After thinking for a moment, Zhang Yuqiong shook her head abruptly and said, no, the risk is too high. Can we reduce it a bit and give our son $25,000? Xia Yuan frowned and said, if there's too little, I'm afraid we won't be able to do it. Either we don't give it, if we give it, we'll definitely give it in place. Jingxing, Your mother wants to say a few words to you. Towards noon, Xia Jingxing finally received his father's call. Ah, okay, you have Mom answer the phone. Jingxing, do you have to do that website? Xia Jingxing could hear the hesitation and concern in her mother's words. After all, $50,000 is definitely a huge sum of money for an average family, so she had to be cautious. But in order to fulfill his ambitions, he can only grit his teeth and say things that go against his heart. Yeah, Mom, let me tell you. Xia Jingxing repeated his ideas, operational models, and profit models for the website word for word. Through the phone, Zhang Yuqiong could hear her son's joy and expectations. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "So, I'll give you $25,000 first, and you can start building the website. We will continue to remit to you based on future developments." Xia Jingxing rubbed her eyebrows and said, "My mother is good at everything, she just loves to bargain. Whether facing the market lady or my own son, the knife is mercilessly used." 25,000 ah. Xia Jingxing hesitated in her heart, whether to accept the good or continue to sell poorly. Actually, this $25,000 is already all our family's savings. If there is more, then we can only sell the house. The buyer who wants to sell the house at a suitable price is not easy to find for a while. Son, are you in a hurry? If it's not urgent, it usually takes a few months to sell the house. After speaking, Zhang Yuqiong gave her husband a guilty glance, who looked at the ceiling speechlessly and gave him a big thumbs up. After receiving encouragement from her husband, Zhang Yuqiong became even more enthusiastic and started her emotional mode. Xia Jingxing doesn't know how much money his family has, anyway it won't be too much. He can't tell the truth from his mother's words, nor does he know if it's true or if his wallet is bottomed out. Still playing tricks on oneself. This reminds him that when he was young, every time he received a red envelope from his elders, his mother told him to keep it for college. Mom, let me give you some information. As a website, the more funds there are, the better. Just like playing football, when the goal is close in front of us, the forward suddenly loses strength and falls to the ground. It's a pity to say that you just stepped on the door and ultimately failed. Xia Jingxing tried his last attempt, but if he still couldn't make it, then he had no choice. Zhang Yuqiong was conflicted in her heart for a while, but in the end, her rationality overcame everything. You should first create the website. If there is really development potential, Mom will support you in selling a house, she said. Well then. After hanging up the phone, Xia Jingxing felt a bit disappointed. The main issue is that the time window is too tight, and NetEase's stock price is about to take off, so I can't wait anymore. If someone is not in the United States and has more time, there is no need to make such a fuss. However, for those who achieve great things, they are not limited to small details, but must make reasonable use of their own resources. Many foreign entrepreneurs receive angel round funding from their parents or family and friends. As long as you can succeed, it's not embarrassing. What about study abroad websites? Are you still doing it? Xia Jingxing thought for a moment and felt that it still needed to be done, but time needed to be moved back. This is not considered deceiving parents anymore. Well, that's the arrangement, perfect. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Unfortunate Departure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Unfortunate Departure. Once a decision is made, the couple of Xia Yuan and Zhang Yuqiong will not hesitate or procrastinate. The next day, the couple took a half-day off from work and went to the bank to exchange the money. They transferred a considerable amount of $25,000 into Xia Jingxing's bank account. When I received a phone call from my parents, it was already early morning in California. Upon hearing that the money had been remitted, Xia Jingxing immediately lost all sleep and became excited. He thought it would take several days to remit the money, but his parents gave him such awesome support. I was so excited all night that I couldn't sleep. The next day, Xia Jingxing walked out of school with 2 black circles under her eyes and headed to San Francisco. This time, instead of taking a taxi, I honestly took the train, then transferred to the subway and arrived at Wall Street on the west coast of the United States. The San Francisco Financial District. The financial district is lined with high-rise buildings, scattered with various banks and securities companies. Xia Jingxing first found an ATM branch of a U.S. bank and checked the balance on the card. Adding the newly received $25,000, he has a total of $36,000 in his bank account and over $900 in cash. With this money, he can also give it a try. Xia Jingxing saw a service outlet of Ing2 Securities nearby, so he walked over. As soon as I entered the door, a white man in a suit, tie, and meticulously groomed hair approached and greeted Xia Jingxing with a smile. "Sir, hello. May I ask what business do you need to handle?" "I want to open a securities investment account." Upon hearing that a business was coming, the white man warmly invited Xia Jingxing to the nearby reception room, brewed a cup of coffee, and began to inquire in detail about the situation. "Sir, do you have an SSN account?" Xia Jingxing took a deep breath of air conditioning. How could she forget about this mess? The Chinese name of an SSN account is Social Security Number, or Social Security Number. It is a set of 9-digit numbers issued by the U.S. federal government to its citizens, permanent residents, and temporary, working, foreign residents, equivalent to an ID card. This set of numbers will record everyone's work and tax filing status in the United States. With this thing, the work of the tax bureau is also easier to carry out. In the United States, without an SSN account, doing anything is inconvenient. Applying for credit cards, enrollment, loans, driver's licenses, housing rentals, car purchases, job seeking, receiving Social Security benefits or other government agency welfare subsidies will all require the provision of an SSN number. Most international students will apply for an SSN account to make their lives more convenient. The exception is for the small group of students who do not lack money, as they do not need or want to work during their study abroad period. As an international student, the necessary condition for applying for an SSN is a legitimate job. F.1 International students who work as teaching assistants, TA, or assistants, RA, in schools can apply for SSN. Xia Jingxing did not obtain a TA/RA and could only obtain a legal on-campus or work internship through other means, and apply for an SSN based on this. But school hasn't started yet, so it's clearly not feasible to find a job at school. Off-campus work, that's black work, and I can't apply for SSN. "Sir." The white man saw Xia Jingxing pondering with a serious expression and woke him up with a loud voice. Xia Jingxing rubbed his brows and said, "Do I have to provide an SSN account? I am an international student, can I apply for an international account?" The white man hesitated for a moment and asked, "Are you not of Chinese descent from the neighboring Chinatown?" Xia Jingxing shook his head. The white man felt a bit depressed. Just now, when he heard this Asian boy with a familiar California accent, he thought he was a second-generation immigrant. Surprisingly not, that's a waste of work. "Sir, I'm very sorry, but if you don't have an SSN account, we won't be able to help you open an account." Looking at the white man with a straight face, Xia Jingxing felt a slight pain in his broad mind. At this time, it is not more than a decade later that opening an account in the U.S. stock market is very complicated, and it is even more unfriendly to international students who have not yet obtained an SSN account when they first arrive in the U.S. More than a decade later, the situation is much better. Futu, Tiger, Huasheng and other internet securities companies open accounts at will. At this time, none of these companies had built a bridge between Chinese mainland and the U.S. stock exchange market. "Sir, what visa are you on?" Upon hearing the white man's question, Xia Jingxing frowned. "Didn't she just say that? I am an international student. Don't treat yourself like a stowaway, right? I am an F.1 visa international student at Stanford." The white man nodded and believed Xia Jingxing's words. Many illegal immigrants couldn't even speak English fluently, let alone come to open securities accounts. Sir, I have a way, maybe I can help you. Xia Jingxing turned his head and glanced at the white man. You can first go to the Stanford International Student Office to obtain an on-campus internship job, and then immediately apply for an SSN account. Once the application is approved, you can immediately resign from your job. Then take the account and come to me to open a securities investment account in order to attract business. The white man taught Xia Jingxing a clever trick. No need for this person to say, Xia Jingxing also knows this way. It's just that there may not be enough time. NetEase is about to release its second quarter financial report, and Journey to the West 2 is also about to be launched. Although the business was not successful, the white man politely sent Xia Jingxing out of the door. Xia Jingxing looked up at the steel forest around him, feeling a bit confused for a moment. After putting in a lot of effort to make some money, I couldn't open an account. It's like I took off my pants and you told me it's not convenient today. Xia Jingxing didn't give up and went to several securities firms one after another, but all of them were discouraging and unable to open an account for him. Unconsciously, Xia Jing walked to the entrance of First Trade, First Securities. A 25.6-year-old Asian man, dressed in professional attire, was looking out at the door with a center comb. Xia Jingxing lowered her gaze from the billboard and saw a man with a trader's head scrutinizing her. Hello. The trader spoke in standard and fluent Mandarin. Seeing Xia Jingxing not speaking, the other person switched to English again. Sir, are you consulting securities investment? After speaking, he took out another business card and handed it over. Xia Jingxing took the business card and glanced at it, only to find that it was printed in both Chinese and English. The Chinese name of the trader is Lu Hai and the English name is William Lu. His position is investment manager. Xia Jingxing put away his business card and casually asked, Manager Lu, how do you know that I am Chinese? Upon hearing that the other person was speaking Mandarin, Lu Hai became a little more enthusiastic and said, Brother, you just arrived in the United States, right? When I saw your temperament, your imposing demeanor, I guessed you were definitely a fellow countryman. As expected. Haha. The other party's praise and performance were too heavy, and did not make Xia Jingxing feel ethereal. Not because of his Chinese identity, he developed a sense of closeness. After all, it is not uncommon for compatriots to pit their fellow countrymen outside. Brother, do you want to speculate in stocks? Lu Hai saw Xia Jingxing not speaking and took the initiative to inquire. Yes, I want to open an account. Lu Haimeng clapped his hand and said, Brother, your vision is really extraordinary. I'm telling you, now is a good time to take bottom trades. Do you know about the internet? Last year and 2 years ago, it was a disastrous drop. If you enter now, you can definitely make a big profit. As Lu Hai spoke, he carefully observed Xia Jingxing's expression, and there was no movement on his face when he saw the latter. Then he thought about it and changed his words. Coca-Cola, Wells Fargo Bank, Walmart and other companies are also good. The growth is stable, suitable for long-term investment, and low risk. How long has it been since my brother arrived in the United States? Have you heard of Mr. Buffett? That's really a god of wealth. You can buy him a few books to read and definitely learn something. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Margin Account. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Margin Account. Is this teaching me how to do things? Xia Jingxing felt a bit amused in his heart. Is this brother trying to trick himself into limping or something? The bangs clattered loudly, but the other person only nodded and didn't speak, which made him feel a bit uninteresting. If it weren't for the underperformance this month, he wouldn't want to be like a clown pulling passers-by to talk nonsense. But there's no way. Just think about life, think about a bunch of credit card bills, rent and utility bills. He can't even lose this job. By observing Xia Jingxing's attire, he concluded that this brother should be from mainland China and not very wealthy. But just open an account and put in $500. He doesn't mind it. Manager Lu, I am an international student and have not yet obtained an SSN account. Can you open an international account? Xia Jingxing couldn't bear to tease this guy anymore and just laid out the cards. The US stock market is divided into domestic and international accounts. The mainland investor who opens an account with their ID card and also fills in their mainland address in the account opening information is an international account. International students are somewhat awkward, with passports and SSN accounts, and are usually directly classified as domestic investors. There is a significant difference between the two types of accounts. International accounts, due to the reciprocal income tax reduction agreement between China and the United States, Chinese people who speculate in U.S. stocks do not need to pay capital gains tax on the profit from the price difference. Only dividends and distributions need to be taxed to the U.S. Tax Bureau. International students who have not been naturalized in the United States but have resided in the United States for 183 days within a year become their tax residents directly. International students investing in U.S. stocks are required to pay capital gains tax. Holding stocks for more than 1 year, calculated as long-term capital gains, with a tax rate of 15%, less than 1 year, the short-term capital gains tax rate is 30%. International students also have passports, SSN accounts, and ID cards, allowing them to selectively apply for an international U.S. stock account. This kind of operation can actually evade taxes. The premise is that the amount cannot be huge and does not attract the attention of the tax bureau. Xia Jingxing didn't have much hope either. After all, the tax bureau's reputation is well known, and few companies dare to take advantage of such loopholes. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so many securities firms rejecting his request just now. Lu Hai didn't speak, his expression was quite solemn, so he repeatedly glanced at Xia Jingxing. Shouldn't it be an undercover agent sent by the IRS? You come with me. The Bangs put away their playful smiles and solemnly invited Xia Jing to the store. Xia Jingxing had a very exciting expression on her face, lying down and encountering a professional. Entering a reception room, Lu Hai poured a glass of water for Xia Jingxing and sat down. Do you really want to open an account to speculate on U.S. stocks? Lu Hai looked very seriously at Xia Jingxing, who never let go of any subtle expressions on his face. Seeing the other party's cautious appearance, Xia Jingxing actually understood that the IRS has a notorious reputation, so be careful and make no major mistakes. Yes, I'm not joking. After thinking for a moment, Lu Hai said, May I ask if you can show me your passport and visa? Xia Jingxing looked at the Bangs with some surprise. Is this to check household registration? With a bitter smile from the Bangs, one knows that the other person will be thinking crooked. They have specialized training within their company to prevent being caught by the IRS. However, these are not convenient to explain to Xia Jingxing. If Xia Jingxing doesn't provide his documents, he won't take this performance order because he can't afford the risk. Seeing the other person's serious demeanor, Xia Jingxing thought for a moment and still took out his passport and visa to give to him. He also had no other choice. Lu Hai took the passport and carefully flipped through it. Name, gender, nationality, date of birth, place of birth, issuing location, issuing authority, issuing time and validity period, entry record. These key information have not been overlooked. After watching it, his whole expression relaxed. I have only been to the United States for 2 days, so I'm not an undercover agent. The transaction can continue. Do you have relatives in mainland China? Xia Jingxing nodded. The best way is to use your mainland relatives' information to open an account, open an international account, and enjoy tax exemption. After confirming that Xia Jingxing was not at risk, his Bangs became talkative again. He explained to Xia Jingxing, many Chinese people here are trading stocks in this way. Reasonable tax avoidance is something that no one can fault. Xia Jingxing shook his head fiercely. What's the point? If you mess around like this, you'll end up breaking through. If his mother knew that he had used his money to speculate in the stock market, he would have to come to the United States. I am still too young to prove myself, and my parents always feel uneasy. After pondering for a moment, Lu Hai immediately said, "So, just use your ID card to open an account. It shouldn't be a problem to make a fuss about it. If you really receive the tax bill, just go and pay the tax." Honestly, Xia Jingxing thought for a moment, and if he really received the tax invoice, he could only admit it. "Okay, just a moment, I'll prepare the materials for you." After finishing speaking, Lu Hai ran out in a lively manner and soon brought a pile of paper materials. Xia Jingxing looked at it and said, "I don't open a cash account, I need a margin account. The bangs are so wide open that they can almost fit the next golf ball. Is this a misjudgment? I thought it was a small fish, but I didn't expect it to be a tiger shark. Brother, the risk of the margin account is not low, and the minimum financing is $2,000. Lu Hai reminded, "If you are a beginner, I suggest getting familiar with the market first before considering further increasing investment." This statement really impressed Xia Jingxing with the man with a center-parted hairstyle. Generally speaking, the income of a stockbroker is linked to the profits created for the company. Xia Jingxing opens a margin account, also known as margin trading in securities lending, in China, commonly known as adding leverage, which generates interest income for securities firms. The more money Xia Jingxing invests, the stronger the leverage, and the more Lu Hai, the stockbroker, earns. It seems that not all those with trader heads are bad people. In the future, we cannot judge people by their appearance, it is too superficial. It's okay, I've already considered it carefully and understand some of the trading rules of the US stock market. You can just follow my requirements. Lu Hai nodded, stopped persuading, and fulfilled his obligation to inform. After filling out the account opening information, Lu Hai began to ask Xia Jingxing how to deposit money. "Do you have a Bank of America card?" Xia Jingxing answered one by one. "Mr. Xia, how much do you plan to deposit?" The bangs no longer kept calling each other brothers and began to talk about business. "How much capital can you allocate for $35,000? Xia Jingxing raised her eyelids and asked. The bangs didn't seem particularly surprised. After all, this guy has to add leverage, and it's not very outrageous to spend tens of thousands of dollars playing in the stock market. In response to your situation, our first securities can provide a 1.1 allocation. Xia Jingxing nodded and said, "Sure, that's enough." He only knows the long-term trend of NetEase's stock price, specifically the monthly and daily trends, but he really doesn't know. Take the highest 5-fold leverage and sell out if the drop exceeds 20%, then you're going to cry without tears. With double leverage, as long as NetEase's stock price does not fall below $1 again, there is no risk of liquidation. The first bucket of gold still needs to be stable and not wavering, because there is no capital for waves. His family can provide him with support for just one time, so it's important to make the most of it. The annual financing interest rate is 6%, calculated on a daily basis. Lu Hai explained in detail to Xia Jingxing the warning line, closing line, and various rules for margin account trading. Lu Hai brought another laptop and taught Xia Jingxing how to use it to operate stock trading. Because our company was founded by Chinese, we have a Chinese interface and Chinese customer service, which is also a major feature of our company's services. Xia Jingxing nodded. He had also heard of that big shot surnamed Lu in his past life, who had worked as an executive at Merrill Lynch and Solomon's, and founded First Securities on his own in 1985, gaining great fame among Chinese investors and communities. It's a character. Our company's website is firsttrade.com, which was launched in 1997. At that time, even the mainstream securities firms in the United States had not many websites of their own. With a proud expression on his face, Lu Hai said, "We can definitely be called the pioneers in the American financial industry, who were the earliest to combine network technology." In the past, traditional brokers used to conduct telephone transactions and manually place orders, while we could directly conduct online transactions. Xia Jingxing coughed, this old man is talking too much. Lu Hai smiled and realized that he had made a mistake again. He quickly focused on introducing website operations. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Foundation of Achieving Dominance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Foundation of Achieving Dominance. After spending half a day at the branch of First Securities again, Xia Jingxing took his leave after completing all the procedures and understanding the operations. Brother, if you have any inquiries about stocks, feel free to call me anytime. Lu Hai politely escorted Xia Jingxing to the door, and in the end, he didn't forget to remind him. Xia Jingxing nodded with a smile and waved his hand with his back towards the bangs, leaving behind a graceful figure. Until Xia Jingxing's figure blurred out, Lu Hai clenched his fist and roared, "Yeah, happy like a child, in second grade." Passers-by threw him a few white eyes. After Xia Jingxing took the subway and transferred to the train back to school, he opened his computer and checked Netiza's stock price. There are very few buy and sell orders, and the stock price is still stagnant, fluctuating slightly around $1.40. Xia Jingxing's stock account has not been opened yet and will take 2 working days. But he is not in a hurry at this moment. The good thing is not in his busy schedule. After waiting for 2 days, his stock investment account was finally opened. He transferred $35,000 to his stock account, leaving only $2,000 for living expenses during this period. Then, following the instructions, he borrowed $35,000 from the securities firm, totaling $70,000, and officially entered the stock market. There is no concept of hand in U.S. stock trading, and the minimum trading unit is 1 share. Xia Jingxing depleted his $70,000 holdings and bought a total of 48,275 NetEase stocks with an average holding price of $1.45. Netiza's stock price was also boosted by this significant purchase, briefly breaking through the $1.50 mark. But due to the lack of follow-up positive news support, it quickly fell back. Xia Jingxing checks his personal trading account on the website of First Securities, which has 2 risk control values. One for the day and one for the overnight. The intraday risk control value, also known as residual liquidity, is equal to total assets minus margin, and can be considered as truly one's own money. According to the rules, if the intraday risk control value / total assets are less than 10%, it indicates a risk, less than 5% indicates serious risk, if it is less than 0, it will trigger a forced liquidation. The overnight risk control value has an additional variable, which is today's cash change value, mainly caused by changes in cash inflows and outflows. At present, the intraday risk control value of Xia Jingxing's securities account is around $35,000, and the ratio of intraday risk control value to total assets is approximately 50%. After completing these operations, Xia Jingxing left his securities account on the side and didn't have time to monitor the market, because it was purely a disturbance to others and added to his troubles. Brother, what stocks did you buy? Is there anything I can help with? Since parting ways a week ago, Xia Jingxing has not contacted her account manager Lu Hai. Xia Jingxing can do this, but Lu Hai dare not be so immature. Although this little brother from Chinese mainland is not a big customer, he took $70,000 to buy stocks at one time, which made Lu Hai feel it necessary to improve their relationship with each other. So he took the initiative to call Xia Jingxing, ready to show some concern and comfort. "Oh, it's Manager Lu." Xia Jingxing smiled and said, "Don't you know what stocks I bought? What does it mean that bangs are confused on the phone? I don't have the authority to browse through the customer's transaction records." He quickly explained, "Brother, don't misunderstand. We are a legitimate company and will never casually check a customer's account. Of course, since you have opened a margin account, the risk control department can view your account, but we will definitely keep every customer's privacy confidential and guarantee that it will not be leaked." Xia Jingxing is not afraid of the other party checking his own account, as long as he doesn't touch it, there's no problem. He may not be very clear about foreign securities firms, but the head of domestic securities firms, risk control, and customer service can all see customer trading accounts. Xia Jingxing skipped the topic and said, "I've already made the deal, so there's nothing I need to help with. Thank you for Manager Lu's kindness here. I will contact you if needed." Lu Hai smiled and said, "Okay, just let me know if there's anything you need. Don't be polite. We are all brothers and sisters, and we should help each other." Yes, Manager Lu is right. Don't call me Manager Lu either, you can call me William or Old Lu. Old Lu is afraid of calling you old, can Xiao Lu handle it? Ah. How do you make yourself feel comfortable? Xia Jingxing didn't want to say what stocks he had bought, and his bangs didn't bother to inquire. Lu Hai is particularly good at chatting. Seeing that Xia Jingxing doesn't want to talk about stocks, he recommended tourist attractions to her and invited her to visit Chinatown in San Francisco. Too enthusiastic, Xia Jingxing is a bit overwhelmed. I casually responded, used a pretext, and quickly hung up the phone. Xia Jingxing lay in bed, feeling very happy. After being busy for so long, I finally managed to get things done. After drinking this soup from NetEase, I have a solid foundation in everything I do in the future. In the words of the second sentence, this is called the foundation of achieving hegemony. With more than half a month left until the start of school, Xia Jingxing, who was so idle and flustered, simply took out his computer, typed in the code, and began designing a website for international students to make friends and share their lives. The days of being a farmer are dull and extremely boring. Except for running and going to the cafeteria for meals every morning, Xia Jingxing spends the rest of his time in the dormitory writing code. Additionally, he finally remembered that his non-mainstream long hair was a bit unsightly. Arriving at the school's barber shop, I randomly picked a barber named Tony and cut his hair into a cut, making him look much more sunny and handsome. As the school year approaches, the number of students at Stanford is gradually increasing. On that day, Xia Jingxing had lunch and was taking a walk on a shady path. From time to time, he saw students of different skin colors pushing suitcases by. White people still dominate, while the rest are black people and other people of color. There are still many yellow race people, most of whom are Chinese. Chinese students account for about a quarter of international students and about 5% of the total number of university students. Xia Jingxing put her hands in her pockets and hummed a song as she returned to the dormitory. "Hi, Darren, long time no see." Xia Jingxing went to the entrance of the dormitory and ran into a foreign girl named Christina who was also returning to the dormitory, who was greeting him. "Yeah, we haven't seen each other for over a week now." Xia Jingxing smiled. Although he was a neighbor, strictly speaking, this was his second meeting with Christina. Previously, it was because I ran out to open a securities account, but later on, I locked myself in my dormitory all day to develop a website. "You have a nice hairstyle, very manly." Noticing that Xia Jingxing had cut a hairstyle that only a mentally challenged young man should have, the foreign girl praised it. "Thank you." Xia Jingxing rubbed his hairstyle and said, "I think so too." Haha. The foreign girl smiled heartily and said, "You are more confident, sunny, and humorous than any Chinese man I have ever met. I hope you continue to maintain this." After speaking, without waiting for Xia Jingxing to reply, the foreign girl quickly pushed the door into the room and closed it with a loud bang, moving in one go. Xia Jingxing received a few compliments and was quite happily opening the dormitory door. As soon as he entered the room, he noticed something was wrong. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Law Enforcement Scene. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Law Enforcement Scene. He didn't think too much and slowly approached, ready to lift the blanket and explore. As she tiptoed closer, she used all her strength and lifted the blanket. To avoid injury, he quickly withdrew to the side after lifting the blanket. The next scene really exploded the three views. The man, wearing headphones, was suddenly attacked by Xia Jingxing, and his face turned pale with fear. Quickly, the other party reacted, quickly put on their pants, took off their headphones, and nervously asked, "Who are you? Why did you run to my dormitory?" The man's English accent is a bit strange and his voice is trembling. Xia Jingxing recognized this guy at a glance. My roommate in my previous life was Little Dog Haizaburo, from Japan. Xia Jingxing suppressed his smile and straightened his face. I'm from the school law enforcement team. I heard from the girl in the opposite dormitory that someone is making yellow noises in the dormitory and the sound is still very loud. This has already disturbed others' rest. Now please come with me, apologize to the girl in the opposite dormitory, and ask for their forgiveness. I'm all wearing headphones, so it's impossible for me to hear anything outside. Shouldn't it be, said the little dog, Haizo, with a bitter expression on his face. Xia Jingxing leaned over to take a look, and as expected, there was a fierce battle on the computer, and there was no injustice against this little devil. He pointed at the computer screen with a serious expression and said, "This is evidence. Let's take it together. Do I have to go?" Little dog Haizo asked weakly, with a mournful expression on his face. Xia Jingxing, the film emperor, was possessed and sighed, "As a man, I quite understand you. But rules are rules and cannot be broken." Little dog Haizaburo dejectedly put on his clothes and prepared to follow Xia Jingxing to surrender. Xia Jingxing did not move. Little dog Haizo is not tall, looking up at Xia Jingxing, not knowing what he means. Xia Jingxing picked up the laptop placed on the bed, pressed the button on the side, and a disc popped out. He held the CD and asked, "How many more CDs are there for fighting without wearing clothes?" The little dog's eyes flickered and he shook his head fiercely, "There's nothing left, only this one set." Really, Xia Jingxing's eyes were cold and stern. "Don't be stubborn, try to be lenient." After thinking for a moment, little dog Haizo turned around and took out a large mountaineering bag from under the bed. He made a small opening in the zipper, took out a small box, and handed it to Xia Jingxing. Xia Jingxing opened the box and took a look. My obedience. Asauka Shirakage, Ijima AI, and Shirashido Hiroshi Sanji have all gathered together. There are subtitles and images on the CD, and under Xia Jingxing's dazzling eyes, there is no escape. Seeing Xia Jingxing's eyes not blinking, it seemed that he was very interested in his collection. The little dog Haizo flattered and said, "If you don't mind, I'll give it to you as a gift." Xia Jingxing's face immediately collapsed and he put on a stern expression, "Bribing is useless, I don't need it." Although he said so, his body honestly sandwiched the box between his armpits. Upon seeing this, little dog Haizo's face flashed with a hint of joy. He then turned around and took out two identical small boxes from his mountaineering bag, handing them to Xia Jingxing. Xia Jingxing took the box and kept his gaze on the treasure backpack. He smiled and asked, "Is there anything else?" At the sight of this smile, little dog Haizo cleverly took out two more boxes from his backpack. There were already 5 boxes left, and Xia Jingxing couldn't take them down, so she simply placed them on the side desk. He pointed to the backpack again and said, "This bag is quite nice." Little dog Haizo's face suddenly turned black, even more unsightly than his deceased mother. "It's really gone. If you still want it, I'll bring it to you next time I go back to Japan." Xia Jingxing shook his head and pointed to the bag, "I want half." After a moment of fighting between heaven and man, little dog Haizo said, "Is it possible to give you half so that I don't have to apologize to the girls' dormitory? The school won't know about this either." Xia Jingxing smiled and nodded. Seeing that annoying smile, little dog Haizo really wanted to punch him. After some hesitation, he decided to bow down to the evil forces on campus. Little dog Haizaburo opened the zipper of his backpack completely, and Xia Jingxing stretched his head to see that the colorful box almost dazzled his eyes. "I emptied all the boxes in my backpack, and in the final inventory, there were over 40 boxes, each containing at least 5 CDs. Xia Jingxing did not ask the other party how they brought so many art films into the country, because he knew that the other party had an uncle who was doing videotape business in the United States, and there were many of these things. Little dog Haizo picked up all the boxes, dividing them into two piles. He pouted on Xia Jingxing, and the leftover pile belongs to you. Xia Jingxing doesn't mind either, after all, they are all treasures, all old artists who debuted in the 1990s. The collection value is very high. Xia Jingxing picked up the pile of boxes and walked to the side, starting to put them one by one into his desk. "Nanny," said the little dog Haizo, looking dumbfounded. Fortunately, the Xia Jingxing Expo Group film understood this Japanese sentence and explained with a smile, "I have another identity, which is your roommate." Xia Jing walked over and handed out his right hand. "Let me know, my name is Xia Jingxing, from China." Little dog Haizo was about to hand out his right hand. Xia Jingxing coughed and said, "Why don't you go wash your hands?" Little dog Haizo's face turned red with swelling. After washing his hands, he shook hands with Xia Jingxing again. "Are you actually from the law enforcement team?" This sentence had been held in the heart of little dog Haizaburo for a long time. It was only when Xia Jingxing accepted his gift and was still a roommate that he dared to ask. "Yes, what's the problem?" Xia Jingxing replied effortlessly. After receiving someone else's gift, Xia Jingxing felt that he needed to be more kind and said, "From now on, I'll cover you up and watch movies in the dormitory." However, the voice should be quieter as the woman in the opposite dormitory is not easy to deal with. "I'll go across to help you talk about the situation later, and this should be enough to turn the page." Little dog Haizo is half believing and half skeptical, he always feels that things seem too strange. Xia Jingxing sighed, got up, opened the dormitory door, walked across, and knocked on the door of the girls' dormitory across from him. Little dog Haizo sat by the bed with his eyes wide open, watching the scene. Christina opened the door and saw that it was Xia Jingxing. She smiled and asked, "What's up?" Xia Jingxing grinned and said, "It's nothing serious, it's just that a new roommate has arrived in my dormitory. He said that both of our dormitories are neighbors and he wants to invite your girls' dormitories to dinner and make friends with each other." Christina nodded and said, "Okay, it's just that I still have two roommates who haven't returned to school. It's okay, please treat them separately next time." Xia Jingxing made an incredibly bold promise. "Then I'll thank you on their behalf." Xia Jingxing waved his hand and said, "You don't need to be so polite." He turned around and found the little dog poking its head out to look over here, so he said to Christina, "That's my roommate, I'll go. Say hello to him." "A dog. A dog." Christina was puzzled for a moment, how could there be such a strange name? Xia Jingxing quickly rounded up and said, "Japanese means that, but his English name is not that. Don't call him Mr. Dog later." Christina laughed and even waved her hand, indicating that she wouldn't be so impolite. Christina opened the dormitory door and, dressed in pajamas, waved at the little dog, giving her a charming smile. The little dog, who was dead in the house, waved excitedly at the foreign girl when she greeted him. After the matter was settled, Xia Jingxing and Christina arranged to have dinner together tonight, and then said goodbye. Returning to the dormitory, President Xia Jing took a breath and glanced at the little dog. This guy is still smiling foolishly, as if he hasn't recovered from the smile of the foreign girl yet. Xia Jingxing coughed fiercely and said, "Little dog, I went all out for you this time. They forgave you and just said hello to you." The little dog bounced off the bed with such agility. Xia Jingxing was startled, thinking that his strategy had been exposed and that the little dog was going to fight against him. The result is not. The little dog stood like a pine tree and bowed to Xia Jingxing 90 degrees, "Xia Jun, thank you so much. Everyone is roommates, you don't need to be polite," Xia Jingxing said with a smile, "Thank you all the same. Oh, in order to ask for forgiveness, I voluntarily agreed to invite Christina to dinner on your behalf." The little dog froze for a moment and remained silent, looking embarrassed. Is there any problem? The little dog shook its head suddenly and said, no problem, it's my treat. Just. The little dog pinched his hands and looked at the carpet. Xia Jingxing understood instantly and said, it's okay. You should talk less at night and act according to my eyes. By the way, during dinner tonight, you are not allowed to mention watching pornographic videos in the dormitory. Why? Xia Jingxing looked resentful and said, you're stupid. The wonderful moment of red wine steak at night, when you talk about these things, it's so damaging to the mood. Search for GACNEI. The little dog immediately reacted and expressed agreement with great confidence. By the way, do you have a Chinese name? No. The little dog shook its head. Let me give you a Chinese name, and from now on you will be called Go. What does this mean? In ancient China, there was a god named Erlang, and his most loyal comrade in arms was called this name. The person who can have this name can definitely be called unparalleled in loyalty and righteousness, like a flying eagle walking a dog. Xia Jun, it's really my luck to make such a good friend of yours. I won't say these extras anymore. P.S. The fourth watch is over, the street fighting author must pay off any debts, and the children and the elderly are not deceived. Guys, let's get started with recommending tickets and investing. Where can I hear your cheers? End of this chapter.